Hello, I'm Professor Nancey Leigh, and I teach in the Economic Development specialization in the School of City and Regional Planning and have done that for almost 3 decades at this point. I thought I would talk with you a little bit about why we do economic development planning and why Georgia Tech is such a great place to study economic development planning. And I'm going to share my screen while I talk about that. So hold on for a second. There we go. So we plan for economic development in cities and rural areas and small towns and major nations because economies and the communities that they're in are not fixed. They are constantly changing, from changes in population, from innovation, from new technologies, from market forces, political and global forces. For example, COVID has had a great impact on economic development at the local level and at the international level. We also do so because we're trying to preserve and increase a community standard of living. We don't want to be stagnant. We hope to see the standards of living increase over time as we advance as a society. We do economic development planning to promote equity, sustainability, and resiliency. That's particularly a focus of the lens of the planning field. And I think anyone attracted to this field understands that there is a great need to increase equity, sustainability, and resiliency in the country and in locality and again globally. And then we also do economic development planning to improve places as well as for the populations that live within them. But it's sometimes that becomes a dichotomy unless the two are really carefully, the two foci are carefully intermixed in the work that we do. And if we don't combine the two approaches, we end up often having newcomers displace existing residents, which is what we call gentrification, and we see major problems of gentrification all around us. So economic development planning is also needed in good times and in bad times. This cartoon I really love. It's about 23 years old at this point, but it sounds like it could have been written yesterday, published yesterday. So there's something called the business cycle, and we've got folks that are saying we're in a recession or we're going to slide into a recession. And so people tend to back off on trying to tackle major problems, the kinds that we're talking about in economic development planning. Then we move into some kind of recovery, and the economy is booming, and people say, well, things are great. We really don't need to be working on some of these other issues. They're going to take care of themselves. And then the prosperity that we have seen in recent times, at least for certain groups, makes the groups and society in general less focused on the lingering long-term problems that haven't been taken care of. And then soon enough, we find ourselves back into a recession and right back where we started about saying we just can't afford to do anything about the enduring problems. So that's a cycle that suggests that we as economic development planners want to be able to respond in good times and bad and to continue to make progress. And then there's another aspect of this economic development planning, a major force that drives the work that we do, and we call it structural change. So this is another cartoon that's old, but also great and just as current today as it was when it was published in about 2010. The robot saying to the new graduate, oh, haven't you heard the Industrial Revolution is over? We won, the robots won. And then the second cartoon is, at least you were replaced with the 2-ton industrial robot. I was replaced with an app. Well, these two cartoons are particularly relevant to me because the research that I've been doing for the last 10 years or so has actually been focused on how robotics and how artificial intelligence are changing the future of work, and also what that means for the local economies in which those jobs are changing or in many cases being eliminated, but not all cases. And we are I've been looking carefully at that for several years now. Don't have all the answers, but I have a lot of insights that we've been gaining, we being me and my graduate students that have been working in my lab on this topic, which has been funded by the National Science Foundation. So that's a little bit about an overview of economic development from my perspective, and then just a few things about our program. I'm one of two faculty that specialize in economic development, and the other faculty is Paige Clayton, and you will be hearing from her here during this open house. And then rather than go over courses, which you can find in the catalog, and there are lots of opportunities to discuss that if you decide to come, which we hope you will. But I wanted to mention too that there are a lot of good internship and career possibilities to explore. And that relates to my earlier statement that Georgia Tech is really a great place to study economic development. We are situated where the local and state governments are very strong here, which have a lot of economic development planning interests and activities going on. But we also have major federal government offices here, as well as the Federal Reserve, and there are internship possibilities in those offices that many of our students have taken advantage of. There are many nonprofits doing good work here that are looking for strong students to help them with the major missions that they have. We have in terms of long-term work, but also summer internships, the Economic Development Council that's headquartered in Washington, D.C., is a major influencer of economic development activity in the country. And that's a great place that some of our students have worked. We also have many consulting firms, the Atlanta Metro Chamber of Commerce, which is made up of all the counties, or most of the counties in the region. And then our utilities are actually quite interested in economic development, and we've got great contacts there and great alumni over there. So there's always a need for economic development planners, and here in this particular city, there's great opportunity, and the opportunities from the locations that are seeking students are very interested in our Georgia Tech students. They're in high demand. But I'd also say that internally, just being at this institute is really interesting for an economic developer, because on this campus, many of the major innovations that are reshaping our economy and providing future opportunities and possibilities, the research is being undertaken here, and there are lots of innovation and lots of new inventions that are occurring. So for me, it's been a career with a kind of a front row seat to what are the major technologies and innovations that are changing economic development in our futures. And in fact, that's how I got into looking at the issue of AI and robotics. So I'll leave it at that. I'd be happy to answer any questions or any emails if you've got some to send to me. And I hope you enjoy your orientation, and that we'll see you in the fall. Bye now.